So one of the stories that was drowned out during the shutdown deal is something that I think is going to have dramatic consequences going forward. Now, Alex Emmons and Ryan Grimm here, doing excellent reporting for The Intercept, just wrote about how Congress had rushed through a spending bill that contains some very problematic language. They said, quote, this would kneecap Congress's ability to oversee secret covert actions and surveillance programs. What does that mean? Basically, this language that ends up being in most CRs, continuing resolutions to fund the government, has to do with the ability for Congress to shift money to intelligence agencies and intelligence agencies to be able to spend money on those programs. Now, one specific provision, first reported by The Intercept, appeared in the House version of the spending bill last week and had modified a 70-year-old law that first chartered the CIA. What it did is that it removed language requiring intelligence agencies to spend money according to Congress's instructions, and they replaced it with a provision that allows the agencies to move money around freely and without Congress's knowledge. So, meaning that if you get this money from Congress, right? So the CIA gets this money, and Congress is like, hey, man, I'd like you to spend it on, whatever program, fighting Islamic terrorism, right? Let's go spy on the Muslims, right? In other countries that actually might be looking to harm us. The CIA, under the old rules, would have to go and do that, right? They would have to come up with and spend the money on a program. But under the CR that passed last week, Congress could go, hey, we want you to spend money on this. And the CIA's response could be this. No. You know what we're going to do? We're going to shift money into one of our black projects. What that is, we don't have to tell you. In fact, we can go and shift money anywhere, and we don't have to tell you where it's going. But it gets worse. Blackwater Eric Prince had also recently pitched to the administration on a private intelligence force that could report directly to President Donald Trump and CIA Director Mike Pompeo. So, look, understand the implication here, right? Now, specifically, Pompeo runs the CIA. And what this bill allows the CIA to do is to use their money in whatever way they want without telling Congress. That means oversight is over, right? We don't know what they're doing now. And add in, if Donald Trump is actually takes the advice of Eric Prince, then he could create his own private army, answerable only to him and Mike Pompeo. That is scary as hell. That is how fascism begins. And they could do this, again, with no oversight. I don't know if I want to take the money and I want to give it to Eric Prince and have Blackwater go out and do our intelligence work, then I could do that. And it's answerable only to me, answerable only to whoever I put in the CIA position. And Pompeo is an ally of Donald Trump. So you think they're not going to use that against their political enemies? No, they've already started targeting political enemies, purging them from positions of power. Again, this is how fascism begins. And to make it worse, right? To make it far worse is actually who voted in favor of this. The Democrats allowed this to go through. Again, this is the bill that Chuck Schumer and most Democrats signed on to. Again, this was the bill to end the shutdown. And so, look, 81 congressmen in total voted for this bill with this language in it, despite people raising this issue and saying, hey, wait a minute. Don't you see the implications of this, of what you're actually allowing in this change of language? The kind of power that you are handing the current administration, which this is power that no administration should ever have. Not just the Trump administration, any administration. And of course, that's what bothered me about President Obama opening this door, because once you open this door, you're allowing anybody to go through it. Now, as far as Schumer, I thought you guys were the resistance. What are you resisting? Again, Chuck Schumer, the rest of the Democrats, or most of the Democrats, I should say, who voted for this continuing resolution that voted to end the shutdown, they enabled this. They wanted it to go through. And again, in addition to allowing Trump to create a private army, they also abandoned the Dreamers, right? And so you had 16 Democrats, thankfully, plus Bernie Sanders, who voted against this. Now, that was the right vote. And you even had Republicans here who were like, wait a minute, this language, this is too far. This is too far. In fact, you had the Republican chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Richard Burr. Now, look, Richard Burr is nobody's liberal. I don't agree with him on anything. In fact, he has long been one of the Senate's staunchest advocates for the intelligence agencies. In fact, this is the guy who tried to bury the results of the Senate's 5-year investigation into the CIA's torture program. So when it comes to torture, he's like, yay, torture. I'm all cool with that. I'm fine with torture. In fact, I'm going to bury this report. But even this guy, he's like, whoa, you're going to do what? You're going to give the CIA the power to what? He said, quote, this language could erode the powers of the authorizing committee. So he's saying, like, you're going to take away my oversight. You're going to take away our oversight of the CIA. You're going to let them go. Unacceptable. Now, he also said, effectively, the intelligence agency could expend its fund as it sees fit without an authorization bill in place and with no statutory direction indicating that an authorization bill for 2018 is forthcoming. Now, you also have Mark Warner, who's a Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee. He said if this exemption is granted, which it was, he could potentially have any administration, go off and take covert activities. For example, with no ability for our committee, which spends the time and has the oversight, to say time out or to say we actually disagree with that policy. Because you wouldn't even know what the policy is. Because they don't have to tell you. Again, all this money is going to go into, or could go into black projects that we have no idea. And Congress doesn't have any idea that they're putting money into. Again, this is incredibly scary. Now, as far as the Republicans go, well, I thought you guys hated the deep state. Look, I watch Hannity, right, rail against the deep state all the time. And yet, you voted to give Trump the ability to create his own private army from the deep state. That doesn't make any sense. I thought you hate the deep state. And here you're giving deep state's power to President Trump. That's crazy. That's crazy. What happened, Republicans? What happened? I know what happened. Their hypocrisy is legendary. They love power. They actually love the deep state. They love torture. And they love the idea of private, unaccountable agencies. That's what they love. And surprisingly, Richard Burr, again, I have nothing in common with him, right? He's actually one of the few conservatives that pointed out the danger of letting the intelligence agencies run wild. And trust me, without oversight, they will. Imagine the outrage if any other president had this power. If a Democrat had this power and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to take this power and I'm going to use it and I'm going to create my own private agency, private intelligence agency outside of the bounds of Congress. What do you think the reaction from the Republicans would be? But it's different. The Democrats, again, sign on to this for the most part. And again, it goes back to Obama, who kept using intelligence agencies and giving them more and more power when he was president. He reauthorized warrantless wiretapping, extrajudicial killings by intelligence agencies, and even authorized more collection of our data. And yet, again, he also opened the door on giving these agencies more power, and Trump and Pompeo are happily going to walk through it. It's incredibly scary. So, thank you to Republicans and, of course, so-called resistance members in the Democratic Party, you have done something that could be very, very disastrous in the future. This is not good. And I think everybody would be right to be a little bit scared going forward. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.